Yes, sir. We are back for episode 6 of the Eric Crocker Show. Live and direct, diving into John Lynch, his presser, his comments on Trey Lance, his comments on Brock Purdy, his comments on, and we're not even looking at Lamar Jackson. I'm going to get into all that. Is Brock Purdy a franchise quarterback? Um some of his topics on, his conversation about Brandon Ayuk, where this team is. But I think today. We got away from the quarterbacks for a day, but we're back to talking about those guys and definitely going in depth on all that. I appreciate everybody that's in the chat already. Chat going up. Chat is live and direct. I see a bunch of conversation. I think this is fun. And of course, man, we're going to put the link in the chat because I want to definitely get y'all perspective on all of this as well. This is the People's Podcast, man. This is the People's Podcast. Um, I think first I have to say, shout out to the Los Angeles Lakers. The Los Angeles Lakers, I think, I'm pretty sure y'all watched my squad last night. Go after it. They're going crazy. They're going crazy. Was it 3-1? 3-1. I saw all the jokes. I saw all the things. Listen, I said on Twitter, I'm not going to address it. I got bookmarks for days of people just clowning my team, clowning my team. I ain't going to get into all the bookmarks and all that I got, but just know I saw what y'all were saying about my Lakers, and we up 3-1. This is a totally different team than they were pre-trade deadline. And for some reason that got lost in the shuffle. For some reason, I don't know why, but for some reason, it's like people try to ignore all the moves the Lakers made at the trade deadline. And the NBA deadline is really at the end of the year. So now Memphis is trash. I see Nyla California. Now Memphis is trash. Number 2 team in the West. You know what I'm saying? They're going to smack the Lakers before the series started. And now all of a sudden, Memphis is not trash. They just ran into the hot Lakers. That's what happened. That's what happened. Lakers got the best record in the West since goddamn trade deadline All-Star break. I try to tell them. All right. So listen, I ain't acting like we want to ship. I'm just letting y'all know we for real. That's it. That's it. It went from Lakers ain't gonna make the playoffs. They gotta make the play in. They can't even make the play in. Then the 13th seed. And then it went from that to, oh, you gotta make the play in. And even if y'all win, y'all gonna get bounced out the first round. To now it's like, well, y'all ain't gonna be no championship team. Listen, all I know is they said we couldn't beat the damn Memphis Grizzlies. And what's happening? Let's go. All right. Anyways, I had to touch on that a little bit and get some of that off of my chest. I was on Facebook this morning, and you know how on Facebook they do the whole little like pop up a memory, and I had a memory of like some of my highlights from the Arena League, and I think about I come on here and talk to y'all. I feel like I'm y'all. You feel me? I'm like y'all. I'm a fan of football. That's it. I'm a fan of football. Obviously, I love the 49ers. Obviously, I try to bring a different perspective. But when I think back on my playing days, my path was very unique. It was definitely different. I was never the like superstar, like in Pop Warner. In Pop Warner, there's all these guys that he's gonna make it, little Johnny. They can't, man, he's amazing. He's going to the league, right? Like I was never that guy. Nobody was like, hey, little Eric Crocker, he's going to the league. Never, ever. High school, struggled academically. Had to go to junior college route. Struggled academically there. Bounced out. Did all kind of wild stuff. Went back to junior college. Went to a Division II. Had to go to arena route. Right. So it was like a long process. But anyways, I think because early on I was like never that guy, and I was definitely a late bloomer. I still think of myself as the early on guy and the late bloomer. And then I watched some of my arena highlights, and I was like, "Damn, dude, you was kind of good. You were kind of good. You were kind of good, dude." I was playing off coverage. I'm backpedaling, breaking on. What I just saw in doing that at 6'2", 195. I would, if I was evaluating myself, I probably would really like myself. That's what it looked like to me. And I was just watching it like, dang, I watched it like 3 times over and over. And I'm like, man, I forgot about this highlight. So that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool to see that. Anyways, yeah, man, Mr. Faithful 49. They keep moving the goalposts on the Lakers just like that. Listen, we see it. We see what's going on. We see what's going on. We're not going to address it no more. We touched on it first. And just know, y'all know what time it is. It's real out here in the streets. Real out here in the streets with the Lakers. All right. So That's all I'm gonna say. Uh, hopefully, the series ends in 5, and then you move on, and you probably got it looks like Denver Nuggets next. All right, it feels like it's set up for the Lakers to be in the conference championship, and if that happens, if I had to put money on it right now, I think they would face the Phoenix Suns, but we'll see. If the Warriors, I think the Warriors get out. All right, I think the Warriors get out of this round and they go and play Phoenix, but Phoenix is gonna be tough. But I'm not counting out the Warriors, man. I'm not gonna be one to count out the Warriors. I like the energy that they're bringing. I talked yesterday about how much I like Draymond Green, so I ain't gonna count them out. Anyways, we've been talking for 5 minutes and we haven't gotten to John Lynch's presser, so we're gonna get into John Lynch's presser right now. Before we start, make sure if you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. There's an audio version of these podcasts as well, so anywhere you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff, you can get on there. We got the new podcast coming out soon, or not podcast, excuse me, YouTube channel, and you can actually probably subscribe for it right now. Shout out to my guy Jesse Naylor for the name. We got Crocker's Corner. I'm bringing you wide receiver, defensive back content, breaking down prospects, all that good stuff exclusively on that YouTube channel, Crocker's Corner. All right. John Lynch's presser. I got a bunch of notes we talked about last night on Locked On 49ers. And you can see I started to get a little riled up. And after we stopped recording, I started thinking about what exactly it is that they're saying. Like, what are they doing? And it felt like so Peacock asked me essentially, how do they view Brock Purdy? Because how it came off to me, everything that they were saying. And it's not something that we didn't really know, right? I mean, I would say most of y'all, as we saw Brock Purdy going through his run late in the year, it was like, Brock Purdy, this feels like he's gonna be the guy like next year, right? Like that's what it felt like. Like, it can get a little tricky for Trey Lance, and we all saw that, and that's cool, and deservedly so. And I think the more that run with Brock Purdy went on, I think the clearer it became. This is going to be difficult for Trey Lance to overcome this after coming off a broken foot or ankle. And then Brock Purdy gets hurt, and that kind of makes things a little weird. And I was wondering, how are they going to go about this situation? Because you got Trey Lance. He said, hey, man, I've been 100% clear for a month now. I'm ready to go. I've been working. I've been doing all this, that, and the other. You got Brock Purdy. You got the elbow injury. If everything heals right, okay, he could be ready by week 1. But does that mean he just misses the entire offseason? Is he good enough to do that? Maybe he did he had first team reps last year. So that part was interesting, and what it meant for Trey Lance in the sense of, like, does he have a legit opportunity to become the starter? And that was one of the first things I thought about. And if it were me, and if I don't have a legit opportunity to become the starter, and John Lynch was asked this question, I'd be like, man, hey, low-key, can y'all get me up out of here? Can y'all get me up out of here? But, and not because you're not willing to compete. Trey Lance has made it very clear, I want to compete. But what is he competing for? Right now, as it stands, the way I take some of the things that John Lynch said, it comes off as if they're telling me, Eric Crocker, we feel like Brock Purdy is a franchise quarterback. Now, why do I think now, listen, because you can be an NFL starting quarterback. There are tons of NFL starting quarterbacks. There are not tons of franchise quarterbacks. All right. There's your starting quarterbacks. And it's like, okay, this guy starts, he can win you games, he's a franchise guy, etc. And then there's franchise quarterbacks where this is a franchise changing guy, right? Like, this is the guy you hitch your wagon to. We're going to go as far as this guy can take us. And now that's a whole different realm of quarterback and quarterback play and quarterback ability. And it felt like John Lynch was telling us, hey, man, we're strongly convicted that Brock Purdy is a franchise quarterback. That's how I took it. And the thing that made me think that the most, and this is where our guy, Brian Peacock, kind of asked me the question, like, what do you think they think he is? When you say, the name of Lamar Jackson comes up, and you're like, Lamar Jackson, we're always going to do our due diligence, but, we're convicted with what we have with Brock Purdy. You are telling me that you believe and you are all in so much on Brock Purdy that you are willing to pass on Lamar Jackson. In my opinion, Lamar Jackson is a franchise quarterback. Baltimore Ravens are trying to pay him franchise quarterback money. The reason why the deal isn't done, he might want more money or more guarantees, whatever it is, but they have offered him franchise quarterback money. Lamar Jackson is a franchise quarterback. Lamar Jackson is a generational talent at the quarterback position. I don't want to hear, and again, maybe sometimes, one thing I've noticed about a lot of fans is that, we watch a lot of 49er football. And sometimes I don't think that we look too much outside of that. A lot of people, you might see highlights, you might see certain things. So there's certain narratives about Lamar Jackson and the way he plays, etc. There are not many scarier quarterbacks in the NFL than Lamar Jackson. So he did follow up the Lamar Jackson statement by talking about the team and where they're at financially. And there would be, you'd have to give up capital. You'd have to, give up money. He didn't go in depth to that extent, but obviously like what would come with trying to go get a Lamar Jackson. But I tell you what, and I will get to the super chat by my guy, Sean. I just started just now. Appreciate you, Sean. I tell you what, and you get the question, when he plays, like Lamar Jackson is a franchise quarterback when he plays. Listen, he done missed, 4 games each of the last 2 years? I mean, he got a little banged up. Prior to that, he ain't missed no games. He missed no games. In the last 2 years, he missed four games each year. I get it. We've seen 49 quarterbacks get banged up. Like, that stuff happens, right? And you would like it to not happen. He has shown the ability to play every game, which, was he healthy when he was unanimous NFL MVP? Like that's the caliber of guy that we're talking about. Unanimous MVP, Lamar Jackson. 14-2, one of the scariest guys in the league. Scary. And the conversation Peacock and I were having, because obviously when you take on Lamar Jackson and have to pay him, etc., you will lose guys. But when will you lose guys? And depending on what guys you might lose, because we don't know exactly what that entails. Like, is it like, oh, you're going to lose Nick Bosa? Okay, I kind of get it. But I don't think so. And I look at Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes just got paid $500 million. He got paid $500 million. And they're like, all right, we'll pay you $500 million, but you're going to lose Tyreek Hill. Let's say they said that. Hey, Pat, we'll pay you $500 million, but the one player you'll lose is Tyreek Hill. And he said, well, I'm a franchise quarterback. This is what I do. So, okay, yeah, I got to get rid of Tyreek Hill. But, man, we still got Travis Kelce. Still got these other weapons. Still draft Sky Moore. We still, go and sign Juju Smith-Schuster, and we go get Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and we still got Chris Jones at defensive tackle. We paid him, got some. We're trying to still, swing at edge rushers and things like that. But, okay, you might lose a Charvarius Ward, but guess what? We still won the Super Bowl. Why? Because I'm a franchise quarterback, and you still got some guys on that defense that make plays. All right, so I look at it, and I'm just like, hey, at the end of the day, you might lose one guy, but if Kyle is who we believe he is, which a terrific offensive coach, terrific coach in general, but terrific offensive coach, and you have all these weapons. Even if you lose one, you still got a bunch of weapons. Trust me. You're still, let's say you lose, oh man, we can't sign Ayuk because we traded for Lamar Jackson, but you still got Debo, Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, and whoever else they end up getting. Juwan Jennings and McLeod and whatever. Right? Still got Trent Williams. Still got that defense. Like, I think you'll be fine. All right. And I say all that to say, you are so convicted in Purdy that it's just like, Lamar, nah, we're good. We're good. And I saw my guy Grant Cohn. And the funny thing about Grant Cohn, I think a lot of people, the way he has done a really good job of making himself a villain. He's very aware of that, I'm sure. I've met Grant in person several times. And I remember my first interaction with Grant. And I'm thinking he's going to be this guy that I see on social media. That thing just says to him wild stuff. And he's not. He's like the complete opposite. He's just a normal guy. But he has done a really good job of being the heel. That's what they call it, right? Like the wrestler that's kind of the bad guy or whatever. It's like, yeah, on social media, maybe even, yeah, social media for the most part. I've turned myself into the heel. I'll say the things that, maybe some people are thinking they won't say. Maybe Eric Crocker is thinking these things and he won't say it, right? Or maybe in press conferences, Eric Branch or Matt Mayoko, maybe they're thinking these things, but they won't ask those questions. I'm going to ask those questions, even if I end up looking like an ass. All right. And I like that he does that. All right. But in person, I will say this about Grant. Great guy. Great guy, great person. You get normal interaction with him in person. Social media, he's the heel. And I think he's embraced that and has really done very well for him as far as his platform and things like that. All right. But Grant put something down on Twitter, and I was like, I can see where y'all going with this, or where he's going with this. And his comments were, you know what? I don't even want to let me not butcher what he said. Let me go to his account. But it was along the lines of Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, Brock Purdy, Lamar Jackson. All right. So we got Cone. Let me click his name in right here so we can. That's not how we do this. All right. But essentially, it was they are convicted in Brock Purdy the same way they were willing to pass on. Let me see. Hold on. Dang, he kind of tweets a lot. So let's see if I can find this. It's gonna be hard to find it. But essentially, what he said was, these are the same people that were so convicted in Kirk Cousins that they were willing to pass on and not really look into Patrick Mahomes. So when he compared Kirk Cousins and Patrick Mahomes to Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson. And I'm not gonna lie, I get it. I get it. But they are very convicted in him. So essentially, they feel like Brock Purdy is that franchise changing quarterback. And when Peacock last night on Locked On 49ers asked me, what do you think they think Brock Purdy is? It's like, I think they think he's Kirk Cousins. And we have to remember, Kyle was so convicted with Kirk Cousins, he was willing to not even look into, let's say Patrick Mahomes, which I thought Patrick Mahomes was the most talented quarterback in that class. I still got tweets. All right. I thought Patrick was the most talented quarterback in that class. But let's say, okay, no. But we did watch Deshaun Watson. And anybody that watched Deshaun Watson at Clemson and what he did, and how many of us, because we knew 49ers had number 2 overall pick, and it was either you were either going to get Garrett, right? The Myles Garrett, or you're going to have your pick at the quarterbacks. 49ers had number 2 overall pick, right? And y'all remember this. Who played in the national championship that year, man? It was Clemson versus Alabama. And there was no way that you would watch Deshaun Watson and not say, like, this guy, he's a guy. Like, just the way he competed, the things he did, the way he, toe to toe, bar for bar with Alabama. Game-winning touchdown, the Hunter Renfrow, right? Like, it was just, Lamar Jackson, he's a dude. And you'd watch that. And maybe him, Patrick Mahomes, he was a special talent. He really was. It didn't take a rocket science to see that. Unless you didn't look into it, which Kyle didn't, because he was so convicted that Kirk Cousins is his guy. So convicted. And you look at that and the way that he kind of gets hitched to a guy. And I think I believe he thinks Brock Purdy is his Kirk Cousins. And he's willing to not see it through with a Trey Lance. He's willing to not look into Lamar Jackson because I have my Kirk Cousins. And my guy Brian Peacock was like, well, I think he thinks he's, no, it's like better than Kirk Cousins. And I'm like, no, he thinks Kirk Cousins is better than Kirk Cousins. So it's not even that he like that's not in his head. That's not a slight. Like that's not a bad thing. He thinks this high. He has this high opinion of Kirk Cousins. Of course, Kirk Cousins, not bad quarterback. I think he's a tier 3 quarterback. I think he is a tier 3 quarterback. And when I watch Brock Purdy, I think Brock Purdy, just watching him, and this is no slight. This is no slight. I think Brock Purdy is a tier 3 quarterback. Now, maybe he could be more. I don't like to put ceilings on guys or tell y'all what a guy will, excuse me, will or won't be. But it feels like when I'm watching him, this like just ability, things he does, etc. This is a tier 3 quarterback. So there's tier 1, and that's the Mahomes, Josh Allen, and I believe like Lamar Jackson's in that mix, but he's kind of borderline, right? And then maybe you could say like Joe Burrow, right? Then the next tier, you have like Justin Herbert, right? I don't think anyone here would mistake Justin Herbert and Brock Purdy being on the same playing field. I would hope not, because I respect y'all more than that. So I think we know that they ain't the same, right? So there's that tier of guys, whereas the the probably the Burrow, the Herbert, and there are probably a couple other guys that fit in there. Then there's tier 3, where it's kind of this mix of Jimmy Garoppolo probably be like at the end of it, but then there's Derek Carr probably be at the end of it, but like Dak Prescott's probably at like near the top of it for the most part. I think Brock Purdy's in that mix. I think Kirk Cousins is in that mix. I left out another tier like Aaron Rodgers and stuff, right? But y'all get what I'm saying. There's these different tiers, and if you think again, and I watch a lot of Kirk Cousins, I think he's a good quarterback, and I believe that he's in that tier of guys. I think he's a play better than Jimmy Garoppolo, which is good. I think he's a play better than Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's 5 less plays than a Lamar Jackson and 8 less plays than a Patrick Mahomes. And that is not a slight. Now, maybe he's Drew Brees Jr., right? And you see Drew Brees, the Drew Brees that we know that played for the Saints all those years was not necessarily the Drew Brees on the Chargers, right? On the Chargers, he was cool, but he look kind of like Brock, where move around well, he makes some throws, does some things. Chargers not that good early on, but that was kind of like good quarterback. Then he went to had the shoulder injury. Who was it? The Miami Dolphins were like, nah, we're cool, bro. We are cool. We don't want you. The Miami Dolphins were like, nah. Doctor was like, nah, don't touch that shoulder. So the Saints was like, man, our whole city's underwater right now, man. We could use this guy to help turn this thing around. Saints signed him. Got matched with Sean Payton. Match made in heaven. Went on, be a Super Bowl quarterback, Hall of Fame quarterback. And maybe that eventually is Brock Purdy. And we'll see. But I'll say right now, if back in those days, if the Saints said, hey man, we can go sign Drew Brees, or we can get, I don't know, Michael Vick, what would they have done? What would they have done? And you got to remember, we're talking about, 2004, 2005, kind of in that range. You can have Drew Brees or you can have Mike Vick. And I don't know if y'all remember what Mike Vick was back then. So I say all that to say it was very interesting to hear John Lynch. And the way I perceived it is, you're telling me that Brock Purdy is a franchise quarterback. And I am not as convicted to say that yet with how I view the quarterbacks in the NFL. All right. So, and I didn't say I got 187 said Trey and Vic. I wasn't saying Trey and Vic. I was saying Lamar Jackson is Vic. I was saying Lamar Jackson is Vic, not Trey. Because I feel like if you want Lamar Jackson, you can go get Lamar Jackson. It's going to cost you, but you can go get him. You can go get him. So that's why I see that. I want to touch on that. We'll get to some of my other notes on it. But Brock Purdy is on schedule, hitting all his checkpoints with the injury. That's awesome to hear. Um, Brock's injury makes it more difficult to trade Trey Lance, which made me feel like if Purdy was not injured, Trey Lance likely would have already been moved, or this trade discussions would be much more aggressive. I thought that was very interesting. Um, I see Cali Young. Didn't Miami pass on Breeze for Dante Culpepper? Croc? No, that's not why they passed on Breeze. They didn't pass on Breeze for Dante Culpepper. They passed on Breeze because they didn't his shoulder didn't check out for them. Remember, he had a bad shoulder injury, whatever it was, rotator cuff, whatever it was. He had a bad shoulder injury where some people didn't know if he'd be able to play football again. And Miami's doctors were like, "We're not, don't mess with this shoulder." So that was why they passed on him. Not because, oh, we just want to take Dante Culpepper over Drew Brees. Good stuff there. Good stuff there. Other things that were said. All right. The trade talks with Trey Lance are remote. So let's look at the dynamic for Trey Lance and all this and how it came off to me. Again, I appreciate everybody in the chat right now. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll put the link in the chat so you guys can start coming in right now if you want to come on live. And come on live, man. Remember, this is not, or this is technically the Eric Crocker show, but this is our show, man. This is the show for the people. All right, so click the link. Come on, let's have an open conversation. Maybe I'll bring several people up at one time, and we can have just kind of a little, nice little open mic and all that good stuff. All right, I have the same people that come on all the time, and they're great. Can we get some new people? Can we get people up here as well? All right. Oh, they coming in. They are coming in. And Swan Song, I really like the the icon. And what race is what's his name? Elon Musk. Because he looks different. Is he from United States? All right, anyways, here we go. Uh Trey Lance. Let me get to Trey Lance and then we'll get to the other stuff as well. All right, and we got a nice little panel coming up here. I might just bring all four of y'all up at the same time because I think that's going to be really good. Trey Lance. I see a lot of people say that he's not being treated fairly. I think he's being treated very fairly. Trey Lance had his opportunity and he got hurt. He broke his ankle. And injuries open up opportunities for other guys. When you break your ankle and you're out for an entire year, you open up the opportunity for Trey Lance. For Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo broke his foot. You open up the opportunity for Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy tears his elbow up. You open up the opportunity for Josh Johnson. Just kidding. Which I don't think Josh Johnson's that game, maybe he wasn't ready for it or whatever, but I've seen this dude come in as a backup and play very well. So I think how he's viewed right now, and then kind of how I've viewed Josh Johnson as a backup quarterback in the NFL, probably drastically different. But anyways, you get hurt like that. You open up the opportunity. So Trey Lance, this is your opportunity. We're all in on you. We're gonna stick with you through the ups, through the downs, and let's ride it out. We know there's gonna be some growing pains. He's got to grow, whatever, but he has talent. He's a smart guy. He's gonna figure it out. And I feel like he would have, but you don't know because he got hurt second game of the season, second drive of the game, right? Two good drives too, but second drive of the game, and it's unfortunate. So I don't think that Trey Lance is. I don't think it's not fair with how they are treating him. I think it's more unfortunate with how things have gone. Now, what did Trey Lance need? What, how has it gone? I think he needed to play that first year. He didn't get the opportunity, whatever. You go to the NFC Championship game, and then you're like, all right, now we're going to go with him. We're all in on him no matter what. Then he gets hurt. What can you do? And then Brock Purdy came in. He took advantage of it, and he did an amazing job. And I think you'd be a fool to think that they wouldn't think as highly of Brock Purdy as they are. Right? It makes sense to me. I'm assuming it makes sense to a lot of y'all as well. unless you just don't like Brock Purdy. Which maybe sometimes the way I talk, I think fans get a little emotional, and then they'll look through what I'm saying. They might take like one little thing. Croc, you say he doesn't, and it's like, dude, I think Brock Purdy's damn good. I think he's good. I think he's a good quarterback. Start week one, I'm good with that. Now I don't know how good he's gonna be, and right now, like I said, I think he's a tier 3 quarterback. I think Trey Lance has these different traits to where he could potentially be a tier 1 quarterback or tier 2 quarterback, but it's really hard to know. You know why? Because he's only started 4 games for the San Francisco 49ers. And that's tough. And only finished what, 3 of them or 2 of them, whatever it was. And he had the Cardinals game, has some high moments, has some low moments, didn't put up a lot of points. Had the game against the Houston Texans. I thought he played well. Even in a shaky first half, still was pretty efficient. Second half, explosive plays. Thought he ran the ball well, did some good things, scored 23 points. It was a good game, whatever, right? Like completed 70% of his passes. Like, okay, that's a good game. And then you had through 3 quarters of the Bears game, played well, efficient, big time throws, multiple big time throws. Cool. Then you break your ankle the next game, second drive. All right. So that is tough. And I think it's tough. Now, as far as how they feel about him, everything that they said to me, and I told my guy Brian Peacock this, I don't think it's about Trey Lance. And I think that's how people, they don't think Trey Lance did. I don't think it's about Trey Lance. I think it's more so about what they've seen in Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy played well. I don't think it's about Trey Lance. I don't think it's, we just think Trey Lance sucks, or we don't think he'll ever be good. It feels to me we are just convicted in the ability to win with Brock Purdy. That's what it feels like to me. That's what I'm hearing. So, unfortunately, and again, not unfairly, unfortunately for Trey Lance, this is just a situation. This guy came in and played very well. It almost feels like, not to the same extent, but because Alex Smith had played very well the year before, went to the NFC Championship game, started off the next season very well, got hurt, and I think it was going to have to happen, but Kaepernick came in and played well. And it's like, yeah, it's unfortunate for you. And I think they knew what they were doing, right? They were coming up on like kind of some contract stuff, and eventually you're going to have to see what you have in Colin Kaepernick and Alex Smith. You did draft Cap second round, and maybe so eventually it was going to happen. But hey, this is our window to do it. And unfortunately, Alex Smith, when you were playing probably some of your best football, you got a concussion. You're like, you know what? Hang tight, hang tight, Alex. Let's see what this Cap kid does. Oh man, play well against the Bears. Okay, you know what? I think your head's still hurting. Did the lights hurt your eyes? No, I'm good. No, the lights are hurting your eyes still. The lights are hurting your eyes still. We're gonna keep Cap in for another week because the lights, concussion and stuff. Oh man, Cap play well again. Cap play well again. Well, Cap keep playing well. Well, we gonna roll with Cap. Sorry, it's just unfortunate, Alex. It's just unfortunate. So for Trey Lance, it's an unfortunate situation for him. Brock Purdy played extremely well. We believe in this guy. We're convicted, and we think he's always going to be like this. And what does it mean for Trey? They brought up trade talks. It felt to me like Trey Lance is either only on the 49ers right now, or things aren't more aggressive because Brock Purdy got hurt. And that's the part where when we talk about unfair, unfortunate, I think that part's unfair to Trey. Because if you don't have intentions of starting me, or excuse me, if you don't have intentions on letting me compete for a starting job, truly compete, like a legit, this is a competition, then it's kind of unfair, right? And that's the business of football. But just, okay, well, let me do my business somewhere else. That's how I would think. And someone did ask, has the conversation with Trey Lance come up that if he doesn't have a legit opportunity to start, trade me? And John Lynch quickly said no and moved on. So I guess that hasn't come up. And I would assume because of who I believe Trey Lance is as a person, his work ethic, all the things that I really liked about him, right? Great kid, smart kid, work ethic, wants to compete, all those things. I would assume that he won't say those things, but I would bet behind closed doors between him and his agent, I'd say those conversations have come up. And maybe some of it has to do with the value of him through a trade. But if I'm Trey Lance, and this is not personal, again, none of this stuff, I don't believe any of this stuff is personal. And I haven't read the super chats just yet, Sean. I'm about to get to it right now. I apologize. I don't think that any of this is personal. I think it's just business. And if it's business, please send me somewhere where I have an opportunity. That's all I'm asking for. A legit opportunity to compete. Because here right now, I don't think I have that opportunity. Now, how can he earn that opportunity? I think he'd have to come in and just be lights out. Just lights out and everything that they wanted when he drafted. He has shown, first of all, Trey Lance has shown the ability to be everything that they wanted when they drafted him. Except for maybe they thought he would be more of a. I was actually watching a cornerback, Clark Phillips, the kid out of Utah. And the game I was watching him against was Florida. So I'm watching the Florida quarterback. I'm not focused on the Florida quarterback, but obviously I see him because I'm watching this corner. And Richardson, that's his name. The Richardson kid out of Florida. And I'm like, I wonder if this is what the 49ers thought they were getting with Trey as a runner. Because he's like a special, like dynamic runner. It's just natural, fluid, open field. And you would see Trey do some of those things at North Dakota State, but one, not to the same extent as Richardson, and then just not against SEC competition. All right. And Richardson was making it he's special physical abilities. But anyways, maybe not. They didn't get quite what they were thinking as a runner. I think he runs well. I think his running ability is a little, I don't want to say underrated, but it's better than I think people give it credit for. All right, we got Joe in the chat. He says they think he was Cam Newton, right? It like if you watched any of Trey Lance and you thought, I think we might be getting Cam Newton on the ground, then fire all your scouts. Now you can say, poor man Cam. Do y'all remember Cam at Auburn? Dude was electric. Trey was a good athlete. Cam was special. Like, best player in college football. It is not the same. And what it felt like to me is Trey is someone that can run, but you know, you ideally would like to build his running off script and maybe a read option here and there, but not to not to the tune of 16 carries in the game. Like I don't think he's that that guy. All right. So right now, if I am Trey Lance and I'm looking at this and it's like, hey, I want a chance to just compete for a starting job. I want a chance to just show what I can do. I don't think the 49ers is the place for him because of how well Brock Purdy has played. So again, unfortunate, but not unfair. I appreciate everybody in the chat right now. About to get to the super chats, about to get to the callers that are coming in. I'm going to bring in a couple guys, and then I'm going to have 4 guys come on at one time that I want to hear, have a nice little round table. All right. First super chat here, we got my guy Sean. Appreciate the super chat. He says, I think this front office plays the offense the way they play in season. Misdirection. If Trey plays like a starter, they will pivot and they will preserve Purdy's value. Okay, I get what you're saying there. They're playing with house money. They are too smart to disregard Purdy's injury. I like that. I think the tough thing is, and again, they're going to do what they want to do. But when you got the players, behind a guy, it's kind of hard to play those games. And I think at the quarterback position, because John Lynch did kind of throw this out there as well, where he said, it's a little different. They went straight to Mike McGlinchey. Hey, Mike McGlinchey, because of the situation, we want to trade you. And it's like, it's kind of a little harder to do that with the quarterback position. Now, I will say this. This is a team that has been very upfront with us, and they were very open and honest about moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, it was very clear, we are moving on from Jimmy. Out of here. Gone. Now, eventually he ended up staying. But it's like, hey, we don't even want you practicing. And that, because of how open and honest they were with that, we haven't heard that same tone about Trey Lance and him being on the roster right now. But even then, kind of reading between the lines, they're all in on Brock Purdy. And it sounds to me like they believe he's a franchise quarterback. I don't know about the franchise part, but I do think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. At least right now, that's what it looks like. Damon, and I know Damon's about to come on as well. What are 3 most important quarterback characteristics? That's a great question. 3 most important traits. All right, I would say 1, leadership. And that part, when you look at Brock Purdy, I think he has that. All right. 2, smarts. Got to be smart, with decision making, etc. I'd say Brock Purdy has that as well. 3, and it depends on the kind of quarterback you want, but depending on what kind of quarterback, I believe high-end ability. And that's the part where I don't know if Purdy is that. He has ability. Does he have high-end ability? And when I say high-end ability, that's everything, right? I see my guy, Jan Chosa. I don't even want to butcher that. But I see you in the chat and it says accuracy. I think accuracy is part of it. When I say high-level ability, I would say that just includes everything that goes into the ability to play the quarterback position at a high level. So, just the plays you can make, the plays with your legs, the tight window throws, the drive throws you can make straight right down the hash. The ability to where the field isn't condensed because you're at quarterback, right? Like Jimmy Garoppolo, he did a lot of things right. He had the leadership ability, right? Jimmy had, I don't know, they say the smarts is kind of iffy depending on who you talk to. But from an ability standpoint, he can make good throws. He can make tight window throws. Matter of fact, how many people made more tight window throws than Jimmy Garoppolo while he was starting? But there was this level of, once people kind of were like, you kind of struggle with this, Jimmy. They start taking away certain, or like, hey, we're going to kind of shrink this. And still, he's like, no, I'm still going to be right down the middle and I'm going to still throw these passes, right? But they made it more difficult. I got to make the offense a little bit more difficult because of a certain limitation, right? So when I say high level ability, high end ability, is just, you can try to take some away from me, but it's probably not going to work. It's not going to matter, right? And those are things we learn as time go on with these quarterbacks. So you can say accuracy. I'd say if you're just saying 3 most important quarterback characteristics is just playing the quarterback position and being a starter, then I'd say I'd just narrow it down to being a leader, being smart, and a good decision maker, and being accurate. You do those things, you can play quarterback in the NFL by being high level. And so that's where it comes back to what type of quarterback are you trying to get? That's the part right there where it starts to get a little bit more specific. All right. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. First up, I got my guy Scott Hill coming on. Scott Hill, good morning. What's on your mind?
Hey, Croc, what's happening? Hey, I just wanted to talk about Trey Lance for a minute. I've been a big supporter of his when he came out in 2021. Between him and Mac Jones, I felt that we were going with Trey Lance. I feel that, what do I want to say? Oh, yeah. I feel that he has the opportunity now. I don't think he's getting traded. I think John Lynch squashed that because of the injury from Brock Purdy. Um, I, I think he's going to get the ability to compete. And no, he's not. He's going to beat out Sam Darnold. Come on, give me a break. I get why Sam Darnold's here, but he's going to beat him out. He's just too gifted of an athlete not to beat out Sam Darnold, and we've seen what he can do. He's a starting quarterback in the NFL. Raw, yes. Development, yes. He still needs that. But let's just see him compete and stop the speculation of trading Trey Lance.
My bad, I was muted. Now the question is, and the last thing that you said was, kind of compete, but I'm pretty sure he wants to compete. Is it a true competition? Like that's the part that's within question. I don't think it's how he's going about things. John Lynch got up there and said, like, yeah, he's ready. He wants to compete for a spot. Matter of fact, let me use his exact words here. He said, "We are excited about Trey's ability to go compete for a job." Now, kind of nitpicking his words, and maybe he ain't mean anything by it, but to me, we are excited about Trey's ability to go compete for a job. What job are you talking about? Talking about first quarterback string, or you just talking about compete with Sam Darnold for second string, right? Like, so he was a little vague there. Like, he didn't say go compete for their starting job. He said for a job. So that part has me a little interested with what exactly it means. But I hear you. The last thing, and I'm gonna get to the next caller. But the last thing you said there was compete. I'm pretty sure he definitely wants to compete. Does he have that opportunity, man? But I appreciate you coming on, and I'm gonna get to the next caller. Thanks, Scott.
All right, Croc, thanks.
All right, here we go. Coming up next, we got Mike Manahan.
Monahan.
Monahan. There we go.
Hey, love your show, Croc. Love your content, your take. Hey, I watched the press conference yesterday, and I didn't get the sense that that John was saying that Brock was the franchise quarterback, but I did get the sense that he wants to find out if he is, and they're going to give him the chance to be. I took that away from what he said. The other thing I wanted to bring up, and I've heard Grant particularly talk about this a lot, which I want to push back on a little bit. He says that Brock is okay, and I think Jesse says this too. But you take away some of these weapons, and he won't be nearly as good. For people that feel that way, I would encourage them to go, and granted, it's college, and college and the NFL are different, but go watch Oklahoma versus Iowa State and look at, the team that Oklahoma had. And Brock carried Iowa State on his shoulders to damn near win that game. I think the only reason
that was a big shootout, right, between him and Jalen Hurts.
They scored 48 points. Oklahoma did, and then I think Iowa State scored 47 or something like that. But basically, they lost it because of a drop pass right in the hands of somebody on a 2-point conversion, and that's just one example. And so I would argue that it's not just because Brock has all these weapons, although they certainly help, but he's already shown that he can carry a team when he needs to. And, he can run a lot better than people realize. In his first 2 years at Iowa State before they had Breece Hall, he was crushing it. He was putting up yards. And, obviously once they had Breece and they wanted to protect him a little bit, so they had him stop running so much. But he's got deceptive wheels, and I think he's more mobile and is better scrambler than a lot of people might think. So,
I think that starts to look different once you get to the NFL.
Yeah.
There are a lot of quarterbacks that have like, hey man, this guy has good mobility, and then you get to the league, and the mobility aspect of it is really more so in like short area where you can really see it, which I think that's the case with Brock Purdy. I think in that short area, we've seen him be crafty and move around and make guys miss and then drop the arm and throw. Maybe he can run and pick up, 8 yards on a scramble. But I think it's going to be a little bit harder for him to be like a consistent runner at the NFL level. Again, short areas, we saw him running for a touchdown, right? Shoot through the hole, pick up, 5-yard rushing touchdown. Definitely can do those things. Utilizing him in the running game, I don't think. I think you'd have to kind of sneak that in at the NFL level, especially. Because a lot of what we're talking about right now is him in the Big 12.
Yeah,
and don't really. They don't really
Yeah,
play a whole lot of defense.
and they're not gonna. They never ran in between the tackles, but on a broken play, he could pick up 20, 30 yards, and he did it quite often. The last thing I want to say, then I'll let you go, and I almost forgot my train of thought here for a
Oh,
second.
sorry.
What was I going to say?
Well, while you're thinking about it,
I know.
go ahead. Go ahead. You got it. Go ahead.
No, I lost it again.
Oh man.
What were you going to say?
You talked about not getting the sense that they felt like Brock was the franchise quarterback, but want to give him the opportunity to show that he is. But
Right.
just in my, the way I kind of hear it or whatever is when you say you're so convicted on this guy that you're not willing to look into, or you're gonna like Lamar, okay, whatever. But no, we're convicted with the guy that we have. You are telling me that we think so highly of him that we're willing to not even attempt to bring in a guy like Lamar Jackson, which would
Yeah,
essentially shake
and
some
I
things
wonder
up.
if that's
But
just
he's
the
so,
money.
I mean,
I keep coming back to maybe that's a money thing. Maybe what Baltimore is doing is they're just letting the market set his price, and anybody who comes in and offers him something, they're just going to pay him that if they can get through the hurdle of the guaranteed money part. But the last thing I'll say is, I know Brock personally. I've known him since he was about 7 years old.
oh, nice.
And I went to his house the week before he had surgery, and I didn't even know he was home then. I went to grab some Purdy swag that his sister had made and was selling. And he shook my hand with his throwing arm and about crunched my hand. So I'm not worried at all about his elbow. I think he's coming back fine. I keep predicting that he'll be back and ready to win by September 1st. And that's not based on inside information. That's just based on my understanding of what I've because I know him. I've probably done a lot more research about these injuries than maybe other people have. But I think he's going to come back and he's going to be fine. And what he says about Trey Lance is in public is the same thing he says in private. He loves Trey Lance. They're good friends, and he gives Trey a lot of credit for helping him after Trey got hurt. So that friendship is real, and Trey's a good dude.
Awesome, man. Love to hear that. And I would say, I think a lot of this sometimes the talk about all this gets fan base kind of divisive, and we've seen that between Trey and Jimmy and all that. And now you can kind of see it with uh, Trey and Purdy. But to me, man, I'm rooting for all these guys. I want to see all these guys be successful. And I know my co-host on Locked On 49ers asked me about Purdy, and he's like, are you worried at all about the elbow? Is that why you feel maybe he's not like a franchise guy? And I'm like, look, I don't know what he is, but definitely there's no thought about the elbow in my mind when I talk about Purdy. I think he's going to be fine. I think week 1 he's going to be ready to go. Like for my money, he's going to be ready to go. So that's not something that I'm worried about at all.
Yeah, I guess my only worry there is how will it deal with it if he gets hit really hard there again, early on, in his comeback. I think over time, obviously it'll just be the same as any other quarterback that gets hit there. But early, that's my one worry is, if he gets nailed there hard again, what would that happen or what would that do?
Right.
Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Appreciate your time. And like I said, love your content. Love it when you're on your show with the other guy, and love these individual podcasts or these individual shows. So thanks.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming on.
Take care.
All right, we got to give a nice little round of applause for our guy Mike. Man, that was a good call. Good insight coming in on Brock Purdy, and you can learn a lot even from a handshake. It's like, hey man, dude just had surgery on his arm, but he's still shaking that hand, being firm with it. So sounds like Purdy's not worried about that arm at all. All right, the last person I have on before I bring on the panel of guys is my guy Idris. Idris, how you doing?
Great. Loving the morning show being back.
Me too, man. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun rapping with y'all. Me too.
Yeah.
Everybody make sure you hit the like button, man, so everybody see this. But yeah, go ahead.
Yep. Yeah, first time calling. I've been listening for a while though. But the way I see, I'm not in Camp Lance, Camp Purdy. It's Camp 49ers, and I want success for all of them. But just looking at the business aspect of everything, Lance has a $10 million guaranteed salary for next season. And cap space is going to be tight. You got to sign Bosa, you got to sign Ayuk. And I think it's in, like just from the business perspective, you got to at least consider, the trade. And the way you'd go about that is, not the way they went about Jimmy Garoppolo trade, where they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna explore trades for him, and yeah, he's not gonna be back, type of deal, and then he ends up coming back, because no one wants to negotiate when you're negotiating against yourself. They're gonna lowball you. They're gonna try and play games. So it's a lot better to not give out information like that, and to take a good strong negotiating position. Number one, create uncertainty about our situation, where it's like, well, we don't even have a starting quarterback because who knows what's going on with Brock. And number two, don't say we're shopping Trey Lance. And I think he's going to get traded on draft day. But if he doesn't get traded on draft day, they don't actually have any interest in trading him, because number one, I don't think Trey is going to be good with going somewhere midway through camp. Number two, I don't think they're going to be able to justify, really long deferred compensation for Trey, given what they traded for him and all the media frenzy that would ensue once they trade him. So, you know, I think they're shopping it. I think it's going to happen in a couple of days if it does. But if it doesn't, then they're telling the truth, that they're going to give him a shot to start. And I hope he takes it, and I hope he runs with it, because I would really like to see him, fulfill that potential. I was excited from the Texans game, and I want to see more of it.
Yeah, see, I still, and I could be reading in between, too much of what, or nitpicking at what John Lynch said. But when he said Trey will have Trey will have an opportunity to compete for a spot, he didn't say starting spot. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna keep an eye on that. And I feel like if you're holding on to him because of the elbow injury from Brock, obviously that as an organization, that makes a ton of sense, and that's the most logically thing to do. But for Trey Lance and the value of potentially moving on from him, you might hurt what you're able to get in return, especially if he doesn't have a legit opportunity to beat out Purdy, and then you go into the season, he's the backup, and
Yeah.
now it's like he has zero. He has zero
Yeah,
value.
you don't want to hold on to him if you're just considering him as a backup option.
Like an insurance
Yeah,
option.
exactly. It's a sort of expensive insurance policy, and like I view him as a starter, and I'm sure that if anyone calls about trading for him, they're going to be like, he's a starting quarterback, and therefore we're seeking the type of compensation a starting quarterback would generate in a trade. So like at least a top 50 pick and a future pick that's gonna you know a future conditional pick, like maybe a future third that turns into a second if they pick up the option or something like that. And I don't see how any team can say no to that, because first of all, this draft is terrible this year. And what better thing you're going to get with a second round pick, with the top 50 pick this year, especially if you need a quarterback. um
Right.
and then also, just the whole cap, the 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 cap implications of everything make it so that it's like, it makes no sense to have him just as insurance. You gotta think more highly of him if you're going to be willing to guarantee 10 million on next year's salary cap, when you have
Right.
Bosa to sign, when you have Ayuk to sign, when we have like 30 players under contract and $20 million of cap space, and 10 million of that is going to somebody who was your insurance policy a year ago and now is a glorified backup. It business wise, it doesn't make sense. you
Right.
know and all they can, like a lot of people say, oh well, they gave up 3 first round picks for him and whatever, but that's all in the past, and it ended up being the 29th pick twice. So
Right.
yeah, big deal. And it's all in the past, so it
And
doesn't make any
another
difference
one
now.
again,
you know
because a lot of people is like, oh, they gave up three. Well, one was
yeah,
a swap, so
yeah,
they did
exactly.
use three. They
They
gave
used
up
3.
two,
Yeah,
and those two, like you said,
yeah, the
29th pick
29th.
in
And
the
the 29th pick in this year's draft, I would say, is like, you know the 60th pick in 2021. So it's like a third round pick basically.
right.
um and also, like, why, like, yeah, they gave up a lot, but why add to what they're giving up for him by making it harder to sign Bosa? making it so we've got to sacrifice in other areas, like, and then next year we got to start thinking about extending guys like Banks too, because they're,
All right.
you only got 4 years on a rookie deal, and teams are throwing around a lot of money in free agency, so you got to have contingency plans and you got to have cap flexibility, and it's difficult. It's difficult when you have $10 million insurance policies at quarterback. But if they see
Hmm.
him as a starter, then I I think it's a different different way of thinking about it. But insurance policy is not worth that much cap room.
All right, awesome, man. Good
Yep.
stuff, Idris.
Yeah.
I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
get to this last caller real quick before, and I keep saying that, but last caller before we get to the panel. My guy 1K Josue. What's up, man? How you doing? Good morning.
What's going on, Croc? How's my connection? Good?
Sound good. Sound great.
All right. I'm a little laggy, but hopefully it's good. Yeah, I'm just here to. I'm gonna sound like a Purdy hater, but I'm really not. I just want to, right off the bat, say that. I just want to
I feel
keep
like
the foot.
anytime if you say like, "Hey, I'm gonna sound like a Purdy hater, but I'm not a Purdy hater, but I want to just get that. You might be about to hate on Purdy, but go ahead. I'm
Well,
messing with
I
you.
just want to. I just want to let people know the truth because some people are a little blinded and enamored by this prodigy of Purdy. All of a sudden.
I'm not gonna lie, 1K Josue, you definitely come off as a hater. But look, hey, you're good. Do your thing. Do your thing. Do your thing.
No, yeah, honestly, I like Purdy, and I'm glad we had him in the back pocket. He stepped in and did what he was supposed to. But people are forgetting Jimmy was having a good little stretch. For his sakes. He was doing pretty good to start off when he came in relief. He might have lost the first game, but once he got settled in, he did pretty well. And I think Purdy doing good, was sort of expected. It's not like he was some random, scrub or anything. He did have 4 years of college experience. He played pretty well in college. So I was kind of expecting him, to at least, win a few games for us. That going undefeated and winning the 8 games was obvious. I don't think anybody could have guessed that. But
Right.
I don't understand why people they're kind of deeming him like he's gonna be the next Tom Brady or Drew Brees or something. I mean, he's good for what he does, like for what he's asked for. Kind of like Jimmy, game manager, assistant quarterback. But I don't understand why people want to trade Trey so bad. He has like half the talent that Trey does. Physically wise, I guess. And I think if Trey were to get an opportunity, he could probably win. Just as many games. And if not more.
Well, one
I
second.
just
Let me stop you right there, Jose. Trey
yeah,
has had that opportunity. He got hurt. Like
right,
like that part, that's on him. And again, like I said earlier when I came in here, Trey getting hurt opened up the door and opportunity for Purdy, who took advantage of that and played 7 games, 8 games. And I mean, obviously he ended up getting hurt as well. But at least before he got hurt, he showed you, hey man, we win when I start and I finish the game. So I think
right.
for Trey Lance, you had your opportunity. It's unfortunate that you got hurt the way you did, and it kind of created all this. But I don't want to say that's his fault because it was a run play, but it's unfortunate. That's it. It's unfortunate.
Right. Well, he lost his job to an injury, not because he played bad, which is the main thing that I'm arguing
Right.
because Kyle, we all know Kyle is he's got a good scheme, and the whole narrative around Jimmy was always it's Kyle's scheme, it's the defense, he's getting carried. So I don't understand what changed when Purdy came in all of a sudden. He didn't do anything special like that was wowing people. Like see, he wasn't changing the game. He's good. He's mobile. He's like a younger Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy was pretty mobile before he got injured, and before he got broken down mentally by all the stipulations and rumors about him. About oh, he's assistant quarterback, and he might get traded. He's not the guy. Kyle don't want him. I feel like they broke Jimmy mentally, and that's kind of why his game never really you know
Yeah.
went like took the next step. And I'm just afraid that they're gonna make the same mistake with Trey before he even gets to step on the field. I mean, he did have his chance, played a few games, but like we said, he got injured. But I feel like they should give him a chance because all these trade rumors and all this stuff. Imagine how he's feeling, and then you're gonna expect him to come in, and now he's in a quarterback competition with Sam Darnold out of all people. Like, what do you expect? Like, is gonna happen to him? Um, I just,
Right.
I feel like he deserves to get a chance to at least prove himself. Um, and sorry, like I was saying, Jimmy, he was similar to Brock. I think he was expected from him to win a few games because we did have a top 3 defense with the defensive coach of the year candidate. Surrounded by all this Pro Bowl talent, and with Kyle
Okay, hold
scheme.
on, Jose, because I do got to get to the other callers. I do get what you're saying. And I think the tough thing is, I think my guy Gammon said this on a previous show, where regardless of who's at quarterback, a lot of people are going to say he's kind of doing it because of the roster. And so that's
Right.
essentially you're saying, Jimmy G. And again, now,
My
I
question
think
is,
there
why
is some
can't Trey do
merit to
the
what you're
same?
saying. Like, I think
Why do
there's some
we think?
merit based on ability, right? So it was very clear that a lot of the success from Jimmy Garoppolo, for those people who weren't watching with blinders, a lot of the success was, man, you watch Jimmy G and it's clear, like, okay, like, man, he does some good things, but man, like, it's not like him, right? And I think with Purdy, I'd say it's more of him than it was Jimmy, even though it's on the
Right.
same roster, but still not to the same extent of maybe some of these other quarterbacks that you're talking about, right? I've heard some people say, the least air yards and 70% of the plays were going to Christian McCaffrey, so he was a check down monster, and there were some other things, but I thought he did a lot of things well. But I'm gonna have to get to the next caller, and I appreciate you coming on, Jose.
All right.
All right. There were some people that say, Croc, you can't blame the injury on Trey Lance. I'm not blaming the injury on Trey Lance. I said Trey had an opportunity and he got hurt. Yeah, I'm not saying it's his fault he got hurt, but he got hurt. And I know 3.5 games. I saw that in the chat. 3.5 games is not an opportunity. No, the opportunity was him saying you're our starter no matter what, and then he got hurt. Now, why he got hurt, the play call, the design. I saw JT Sutherland's breakdown. Like, that's a totally different conversation. But the opportunity, like, look, you're our guy. Like, did they or did they not say that? You're starting no matter what. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo, we don't even want you on the team. What, like, that happened. And he got hurt. And it opened up more opportunity for other guys. And it's not Trey's fault, but it happened. Got a super chat here from my guy Antonio C. Brook. Said, I think the team / locker room should at least show Trey some support while Brock is out. Stop talking over Tree as if he is just in the way. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. But Trey has to prove it to them. And I think that's part of it, right? Kyle said that early on when he's talking about when he would potentially play Trey Lance. And he was like, we'll know, the teammates will know, the players will know, etc. And I think right now that part of it, and he said that when Trey was drafted, but Brock has done that, right? Where it's like, hey, we'll know when the team knows and the players will know, the coaches will know, everybody will know. And that's how they feel about Purdy. So Trey just has to earn that. And here's the thing, talking about opportunity. He has an opportunity. I think it's a steep uphill battle, but he does have an opportunity. Steep uphill climb. He has an opportunity. He legit, Trey can, he low-key controls his own destiny. If you go out there and you light it up, there's a scenario where he's the starting quarterback week 1. And, Purdy, we're going to start you off on the pup list. You know what I'm saying? But you got to light it up. What are the odds of him doing that? That part is kind of on him. That part's kind of on him. I did want to say, here we go, Kelly. Like when a person, because 1K Jose came on, he was like, I'm not a hater, but kind of gonna come off as a hater right now. I get what you're saying though, 1K. Kelly said, like when a person says no disrespect before they roast you, and that reminded me of when Mark Jackson, what he said about LeBron's wife. He was like, yeah, LeBron got Savannah. I'd knock it out the park. with all due respect. Like, what do you mean with all due respect? You just said on national television you smashed LeBron's wife. Like, what do you mean with all due respect? Like, what are you saying? All right, but anyways, we got some guys coming in. All right, I'm gonna bring on the panel right now. Our first guy, and I'm bringing all three guys on. All right, we got Gammon. All right, go ahead, clap it up for Gammon Brown. Here we go, clap it up for Gammon Brown. All right, we got Swan Song. All right, we're gonna clap it up for Swan Song. There we go, clap it up for him. Nice little applause. And then we have my guy Shunder Boy. Shunder Boy. There we go, clap it up for him. Nice little round of applause. So I wanted to bring y'all up here, and let me put you guys on the jumbo. There we go, on the jumbo, right there, and just get some of your thoughts. So Swan Song, I think you are the guys on here, and if everybody here is very smart, I think you guys say things very well. You get your point across very well. There's a lot of research that goes into there, but there's something about Swan Song's delivery, and he's a no-nonsense type of guy. He's not going to sugarcoat things like I do at times. So I want to hear his opinion first. Oh, by the way, we only have 10 minutes because I got to go train some athletes. So we got 10 minutes.
Okay, gotcha.
Swan Song,
Thanks, man.
you're up first. I want to hear it. Let's go.
Okay, so the conviction that they have for Purdy, the only thing that makes sense to me, and Sean talked about it earlier. I thought he made up good points, but is that I think the team is fine. Like, hey, we don't want any more QB drama. Give us our guy, and then we'll go with that, right? Which is fair. Purdy's shown that he's undefeated when he's started and finished the game. Fine, but because of his health,
What's that
right?
ESPN? What's that ESPN alert? Something about the Lakers? How we've been talking to everybody? But go ahead.
because of Purdy's health and how they want to shore up this QB room, there's no way they're going to trade Trey unless they have like a Cousins or a Brady in their back pocket. Because what is the one thing that they will get critiqued on if they only come into the season with an unhealthy, a question mark in Purdy, Sam Darnold, which is a reclamation project? Like, Trey Lance is the only healthy QB that knows the system. So there's no way they would just go, oh, you know what? Well, unless they have Brady or Cousins in their back pocket, and that what happens during trade day, that's the only way I see him traded, is if a trade happens and they're like, oh, the Niners got Kirk Cousins or Tom Brady. I doubt that happens, but that's why I don't believe in the smoke of Trey getting traded. It doesn't make any sense. I think.
Well, hold on. Who does it not make sense for? And I think you're saying from the 49ers standpoint, it doesn't. But what about for Trey Lance?
For Trey Lance, okay, so Trey Lance could see the same thing, right? Like, okay, this doesn't make sense. I think Trey Lance is going to have an opportunity to play. I think Purdy is not going to be – I think he's probably going to be put on the PUP list, right? Especially if they draft a QB. If they draft a QB, I think they're going to draft a QB regardless if Purdy's on the PUP list or not, because they can always get rid of Darnold just like they got rid of Sudfeld, right? So if they go out and get Dorian Thompson or whatever, it's not an indictment on Trey or Purdy or whatever, right? It could be they could get rid of Darnold. They're only guaranteed $3 million to him. They did that with Sudfeld. They lost 2-point-something million, like whatever, right? But so I don't think I think most likely Trey is going to be the week 1 starter. And yes, he just needs to win. He needs to play well and win, because if you know Kyle, and they're going to want to make it work too, because right now the narrative, right, is for because everything was given to Trey last year, right? It's kind of like no competition, no nothing. Oh, he's the guy, blah blah blah. This year it's different. They said to themselves, okay, let's set him up for success. Right? And setting up for success would be like, yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. It's like what Sean said, misdirection, right? You don't know what's going to happen. So anything that Trey does from this point on, like if he wins and starts looking good, it will look better because all expectations are low for him right now. I'm not talking about for the Trey fans, right? And people think that believe, but I'm talking for most of the 49er fan base that's kind of lost their faith in Trey, in what he could be. So I think they could be setting him up for success this way, right? And if he wins and balls out, the narrative is going to change real quick, because it's going to be, they drafted 3 to get this guy, blah blah blah. That's how.
Swan Song. The question is, balls out where, when? Are we talking about OTAs? Are we talking about
no? I'm saying
training camp comes, and if Purdy's out there and he's all of a sudden it's like, hey, I'm throwing. I might not be full contact, but 7-on-7, I'm throwing that rock and I'm doing these things. how much of a competition like is it truly? And is that where you're saying, oh well, you got to ball out in training camp?
Yeah.
Because again, I don't think that there's anything that Trey can do in training camp for the most part that's going to unseat Brock Purdy. I believe he has to do it in actual games.
Yeah.
And
My premise is that Purdy is not going to be the starter week 1, not because of his health. Like, I don't think they're just going to roll him out. And I think if you listen to what Purdy even talked about, was like, hey, you know what? Like, I don't know. He's unsure what, like, he's going to play. Purdy is going to play when he feels that he can do it. Right. And I don't think he's just going to speed it up just because, oh, you know what? I'm going to lose my starting position to Trey if he goes balls out. I don't think he thinks that way. He could. But I think it's going to be like, hey, I'm going to come back when I'm ready to come back. I'm not coming back out of fear that I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to come back when I know that I'm 100%. And I don't think that happens in week 1. But that's what I'm saying. That's my premise.
I want to hear what Shunder Boy has to say about this.
All right, so there's a couple of things. For one, there's absolutely no precedence whatsoever for the fact that the 49ers are somehow trying to create a narrative to set Trey Lance up for success differently than they did last year. Everything that they've said and done since they got here has been fairly transparent, and they're pretty obvious when they're like not wanting to tell you something, so on and so forth. So I'm not saying I totally disagree with you. That's definitely possible. I just don't see any precedence whatsoever since they've been here for that being the case. Now, as far as Trey Lance being able to compete, if Trey Lance comes in and plays really well, so we're going to know more about Brock Purdy after 12 weeks. That's the only thing we actually know at this point, is that in 12 weeks from the surgery, then we'll get some more information that's actually definitive. He'll start throwing shortly thereafter. People act like he's not going to throw for 6 months. That's not true. He'll start throwing on the sides, just like we saw with Jimmy Garoppolo. They will know where he's at in his progression before we get to preseason games. They're going to know if he's had a setback. They're going to know if the progress is coming along, because we're 4.5, 5 months in at that point, and he's been throwing for 6 weeks. So they will have the necessary information to make that decision. It's possible that Trey Lance plays his way into a legitimate competition only because Brock Purdy is not quite there yet, and Trey Lance has shown he's capable of starting off the season. In that scenario, it becomes an actual competition. Right now, it's not, because if Brock Purdy heals on time or ahead of schedule, and he's actually able to play with the team in and around the preseason game and training camp, Trey Lance doesn't really have a shot. Real quick, though, so I have to crush a narrative that I've been getting crushed ever since I came on here and said I agreed with Larry Krueger that I would not trade Lamar Jackson for Trey Lance straight up. Even you, Crocky, said I was crazy for thinking that that's even like in the realm of possibility. So one of the reasons that I asked the question I asked, what are the 3 most important things for a quarterback, right? And most people will say decision-making, accuracy, leadership. Okay, that's now, and then right behind that is going to be like arm talent, running ability, things like that, right? So the problem with
how many quarterbacks would you take over Josh Allen?
Over Josh Allen, 4 probably.
How many would you take over Patrick Mahomes?
None.
I do not think that either Josh Allen or Mahomes are the most accurate quarterbacks.
No, they're not.
They have made very accurate throws, but you just watch a game, and between both of them, you'll see a bunch of balls get away from them. And you'll see guys have to turn around. Now, they will have the explosive plays. They will have the crazy plays, and those kind of hide some of their quote-unquote accuracy deficiencies. Again, they can make very special, accurate throws, right? We've seen Trey Lance make accurate throws, but we would not say that Trey Lance is accurate. So, again, when you I'm not
saying he is.
They got to be like this accurate quarterback. I mean,
totally understand.
Like somebody said, Burrow's accurate. I think Joe Burrow's accurate, more accurate
Absolutely.
than both Mahomes and
Absolutely.
Josh Allen.
No question.
And yet we still would have a hard time taking Burrow over either of those guys.
No, I would take Burrow over Josh Allen, and I wouldn't blink. So real quick, going back to, so Lamar Jackson, he is not top 5 in any of those 3 categories. He's probably not even top 10 in at least 2 of them. Okay. And that's decision-making and accuracy. Now, if you go back and look at his actual stats over the last couple of years, since his MVP year, in the last 3 seasons, he has dropped in quarterback quarterback rating. He has dropped in yards per game, touchdowns. He has dropped in touchdown percentage. He has dropped in completion percentage every single year. Last year, he finished only 12 games. The year before that, only 12 games. He has not completed the season except for his rookie year. On top of that, last year, he only
Hold on, the
completed
second year too, though. They just sat
15
him.
games. Oh, they sit him? Okay, sorry. You're right. I'm just looking at he only played 15 games. You're right.
Might have did that the following year.
No, the third year he missed a game. The third year he missed a game with like a strain or something. I don't know if it was a hamstring or something like that. It might have been a concussion, actually. So every single year he's gotten worse. Now, here's the critical element. In his MVP season, he had 36 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Okay? Interception percentage of 1.5.
36 passing touchdowns.
Correct.
I mean, and
plus running. Absolutely. No, so I'm okay. Well, I'm talking
like 50 touchdowns. You know,
yeah, no, like that's, yeah, you know. but that's an anomaly season because the next year he was 26 and 9. Now the last 2 years, this is what I'm talking about. He's been on a significant downward trend. He had 16 touchdowns, 13 interceptions last year in 12 games. That's bad. That's just not good. That's bad. He had 17 touchdowns, 7 interceptions last year in 12 games and only completed 62% of his passes. He is not only on a downward trajectory injury-wise, he's on a downward trajectory completion percentage. He's on a downward trajectory as far as how many interceptions to touchdowns he's throwing. There's nothing about his game that has not been in a downward trajectory for the last 3 seasons. You want me to trade a guy who's going to cost me $40 million? Now, here's the context. You lose Brandon Ayuk. You don't get to re-sign Tyshawn Gibson. You probably can't sign Javon Hargrave this offseason. And at least one other player goes bye-bye, either Warner or Kittle, when it's time to re-sign them. If you sign Lamar Jackson, because you have to pay him $40 million a year. I'm not going to trade. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. I'm not going to trade all of that and Trey Lance for a guy that's on a downward trajectory. I'm not saying that Trey Lance is better than Lamar right now. That's a stupid thing to say. Lamar Jackson's a better quarterback right now and would give the Niners the best chance to win on this current team. I'm not giving up the entire future and everything else. Now, if you guarantee me he plays 16 games, I'll take the downward stuff because of what he gives you in the running game.
In his best years, he had Hollywood Brown.
That was 4 years ago.
Well, but
no, Hollywood Brown had 700 yards.
Huh?
He had 67 catches for 700 yards the year that he won MVP.
And then the next year he started to do better. But look, we're talking about not having. I mean,
he was worse next year.
People say about Lamar
that he can run, and it gets him killed.
No, that's not what their offense.
They run the ball.
No weapons.
There's Mark Andrews and who?
Yeah. Oh no. Okay. So how many times has Trey Lance played with George Kittle? How many times has he played with the full bevy of weapons? He didn't have CMC.
Well, no,
he didn't have. And yeah. So you can. So but this conversation is about Trey Lance and Lamar Jackson. So you can make the same argument about Trey Lance. If you give him weapons, he's going to play better. And now you get all those extra things. So I just don't understand the conversation. Lamar Jackson is not a top 5 quarterback. I'm not trading all this that you would have to get him. Now, I'll give you the 8 to 12, and it's only because he's not accurate, he doesn't stay healthy, and he doesn't consistently protect the ball. He also fumbles the ball too, by the way. So every single thing that you don't want a quarterback to do, he's doing more and more each year. It's just there's nothing about it that actually is a positive forward projection, which is all the NFL is about.
I would like to see him, and I'm gonna get Gammon's thoughts on this. I would like to see him in more of a Kyle Shanahan offense where he can get under center, play action. He can definitely do those things and throw passes to George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. I mean, obviously,
but no, he misses guys wide open every game. He misses open guys every game, literally every game.
He hits a lot of guys and also creates a lot of explosive plays.
He does. How many tight window balls do you see him throw? Like there's maybe 10 or 15 in a season. He maybe throws 1 or 2 a game. Like
from Baltimore Ravens fans, because I got some of them on my Twitter timeline that just show drop after like perfect throw downfield, drop, tight window throw, drop, and then like Hollywood Brown.
That's true.
I mean,
yeah,
he was dropping balls.
No, you're right about the drops. Yeah,
too. I mean, on the money, drop, and then it's like, all right, well, maybe this kid out of Minnesota, can't even think of his name, Rashad Bateman, to be good. It's like, well, now they're saying he's a bust. Like, you know what I'm saying? So
I'll give you that for sure.
It's hard to compare. And again, I think a lot of it he's doing with well, hey, this is what I have. So I'm gonna try to make the best of it. And right now, what he has, I'd say, if you compare it to other weapons, shoes, even in his conference or his division, excuse me, we'd say probably the worst supporting cast. But Gammon,
Listen,
what are your
I
thoughts on
agree. Him on this team is a Super Bowl team. Like, he's the best quarterback in the division immediately. So I don't want it to get misunderstood that I think he's a bad quarterback or something. I just don't think he's an elite top 5 quarterback. He's not. Sorry, go ahead, Gammon. Somebody's typing like crazy.
I think that's Swan Song. Oh, Gammon, you're muted. Oh, we can't hear Gammon. Oh, Gammon, your mic might not be plugged in.
I absolutely love what Swan Song said in the back. He said about Tiffany's. That comment's fantastic. So Swan Song, real quick, like, I understand what you're saying about any GM or front office would love to have an MVP quarterback. You say that, but Cam Newton's an MVP quarterback that can't get a backup job, right? And that's like a year or two before Lamar won his. So you can't say that any guy, the whole league has a chance to get him right now. And nobody's going out there and wanting to pay him what he wants. So how can you say any head coach in front?
Like, well, and
yeah,
when I
correct.
say what he wants, like,
But they don't want to pay him what he wants
offered,
either.
Well, they've offered him a significant amount. Like I said earlier, like they have.
And he said no.
Franchise quarterback money.
But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think it's in the cards for the Niners on how they built this team. I think John Lynch nailed it. Like he said that, right? His comment that I thought was weird was when he had said, "Well, we're convinced with Brock, and our QB room, right?" Which was kind of like, oh man. But I don't think we can't afford Lamar Jackson. There's no way.
You can afford whoever you want.
I mean, okay. So where are their cap figure right now? They're like $3 million over. They could do some restructures, $11 million here with what's his name? CMC.
Hello.
They could probably stretch it out to where they probably can do it, but it would be an all-in this year Rams type of move. And I don't think they think that way.
Well, they don't, but what have we seen from the Rams all-in moves? Like, what did that net them?
It netted him a Super Bowl for sure.
Now they're in a tough situation now.
Yeah,
but
now they're trash. Yeah.
Gammon. I got 5 minutes, Joe. I got 5 minutes. But go ahead, Gammon.
Okay. Hey, Shunder Boy, I got nothing but love for you, brother. But gotta check the bass in your tone, brother. Because the biggest thing is here.
Let's hear it.
Look, any head coach or front office would be happy with an MVP quarterback. You can. The reason why he was an MVP wasn't because of the deficiencies in the game, but what his game brought to the table. But a lot of things that you said is noted, but again, nobody is perfect. I do want to say, look, and this hurts to say about the 49ers, right? And this is a fact if you're a fan, all right? Whichever quarterback starts the season probably will not be the quarterback who ends the season. Right. And when we look at who are the 49ers' first 3 opponents, and anybody can go ahead and try and Google that or whatever, that's going to be kind of a death row as far as who's kind of coming after us in waves as far as a rushing standpoint. And I really look at this quarterback situation as a running back situation. It's a round robin on this roster. If I told you, hey, starting the season, Christian McCaffrey will be the starting running back. But at the end of the season, it could be TDP or insert whatever third round running back that we draft. You'd be like, I don't know, because we don't know who's going to be standing upright after 3 games of preseason, 17 physical games, and then now we're going into the playoffs. And I really like this, right? Like we're talking about Trey Lance doesn't get a fair chance or a fair opportunity. Again, if you're a big Trey Lance fan, you probably don't want him starting this season, number one. Brock Purdy, if you really love Brock Purdy and you think he's the number 1 guy and you think he's your future, you probably don't want him starting again, because what ended or derailed Alex Smith's career was having those 2 shoulder injuries on his throwing arm, because people go like, oh, he's a weak arm quarterback. He wasn't that way when he was initially drafted. But the way he was mismanaged and accounted for, he eventually lost some strength out of that arm. And it's something that's kind of deaf and lost on fans. 3rd overall pick. and I say this, right, and my dad raised me this way too, okay? Equality of opportunity, not equality of outcomes. Trey Lance won't be shown the door like Tucker Carlson was on Fox. Rosen had multiple chances, just like Darnold, and Darnold has had multiple chances. And people are afraid of Darnold taking over Trey Lance's job. I kind of say this. For all intents and purposes, Darnold has been basically fired from multiple jobs, and now we let the media steal the narrative that is that he can take someone else's job when he can't even keep his own job. Trey Lance's, they're saying his days are numbered. What are we basing that on? Not this season. You need to, when you have a championship roster, you need to have as much high-end talent on the roster as humanly possible. And Trey Lance gives you that. Croc, if I were to say this, where do you rank Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, and you look at all 16 starting quarterbacks in the NFC, where do you rank Brock Purdy? That doesn't even take into account who we're going to see on the AFC side.
Well, I would say that it might work more in his favor. Like I saw somebody post earlier, like, man, it's a complete just drastic difference between the quarterbacks in the AFC and the quarterbacks in the NFC, like the top guys. And he just had listed the top quarterbacks in the AFC, especially the kind of swings things when Aaron Rodgers goes over there. So if you ask, like, where do they stack up in the NFC? Obviously, and we know more, like, Trey Lance, I can't even rank him because I just don't know. He hasn't played enough. But as far as Brock Purdy, I would say it's probably high because, I mean,
do you have him over Goff?
I would have to have Goff over Purdy.
And I would too.
And also,
that's a
I think
tough
it was yesterday, on Locked On, talking about how many games Goff has won and how people talk about him. Like, they don't give him nearly the respect of other guys.
He balled out.
And all he's done is win hella games, go to a Super Bowl, and really get in a hot streak with the Lions late last year and really catapult that team to where now the Lions are viewed drastically different, I think, in large part to Goff, who, again,
he regained his respect.
In the dumps with
quarterback wins. Sorry, quarterback wins are only a stat when you're trying to drive a Jimmy G is not average narrative.
It's not
the only time that's a stat.
It's not just a stat, and I do believe in him because it was like one of the things that that Croc was talking about was when he was talking about in the top 3 of traits is leadership. Players are only going to play for somebody as hard as they can, as far as a leader that they feel and they value, right? That kind of gives you that, and not to be D&D, but that gives you that +3 out there on the field level of play. Discrediting somebody who gets the ball and touches their hand 100% of the times, we can't discredit that. Here's going to be one of my final points. And this is the thing why I was so glad yesterday when we called in and we said we weren't going to be talking about the quarterback stuff. Because I do feel like it detracts away from the real issues on this 49ers roster. I tried to be a smoke buster, not a ghost buster, but a smoke buster. And I said this on Grant's show, that I felt like talking about Trey Lance being traded sells to the cheaper seats, because I don't feel like a lot of fans, and I don't know about everybody else, but we don't have enough time to watch 18 hours of what people are trying to shovel down as far as the media goes, or podcasters down our gullet, of inaccurate information that we know is just nothing else but clickbait material. But I'll say this. How about this? A castle fortress is only as strong as its walls. And I said this last year. I said I did not approve of the way that the Rams and the 49ers built up their offensive line. And then look at where their quarterback situations were for both teams respectively on how it started. And you know what's going to be funny, Croc? In about 2 months, you're going to have a show that's going to be labeled, hey, should the 49ers be concerned about their offensive line? And it's going to be like, what about our kicker? What about you know what I mean? Do we have any faith with our kicker? Like, there are all these other situations going on. Who's our nickel safety? Does anybody in chat, can anybody right now, if we were to go like, hey, $5 prediction, if you name our nickel corner and they're the starter for the next 17 games, who was our nickel corner? But again, we can go
Isaiah Oliver. That's what it sounds like. But we don't know.
We don't know.
Could be Womack, could be Lenore and somebody else at corner. Like,
do we get gold later on? Is the kicker that we have right now, that the cast off from the Panthers? Because looking at the Panthers side, they were really okay, quite frankly, with letting him go. They're going like, he's got a big leg, but but he's not the most accurate guy in the world. And I don't want to go through what the Cowboys went through, not saying that we will, but that's what I mean. And here's the other thing too is look, and I'm going to end with this, but whenever you have Grant Cohn and Lombardi both agree on a subject, it's kind of like an unholy trinity or like an unholy alliance that comes through. And so
What they
that
agree
is
on?
really kind of where I have to weigh some things in. And how does Trey win the starting job? He has to win over the locker room. He has to win over the locker room. Folks, it was just the same way when he was the drafted by the 49ers, and then they were like going like, hey, is he going to beat out Jimmy Garoppolo? Well, the players on the field, to your credit, Croc, you said lockership as a former player. Believe it or not, right? Like a former player saying like leadership, like who's going to galvanize and lead your team, right, to it, and you've been in that locker room. I sure as hell haven't, so I can't really tell you what I find or look for, especially when you're doing the drafting and the mock drafts. I couldn't take your job, just like Darnold couldn't take Trey Lance's job. So when we're kind of looking at this, how does Trey win the starting job? It's been the same formula the entire time. He has to win over that locker room. Thank you.
All right, man, that was great stuff right there. We got to hit my guy Gammon with the air horns. Appreciate all of you for coming on. Gammon, Swan Song, Shunda Boy. Thank y'all,
Thanks,
man.
Scott.
Thank you so much. I got to give y'all a nice little round of applause. Make sure everybody clap it up for these guys.
Thanks, Croc.
I think we're gonna-
Like and subscribe, y'all. Get them numbers up.
Yeah, what he said, like and subscribe, and listen to the audio version as well. That's on there as well. But all right, Gammon, Swan Song, Shunda Boy, I'm going to get y'all out of here.
Thanks, man.
All right. I got some athletes. I'm about to get to training some guys that, we're working on speed. We're working on strength. We're working on all those things in about 20 minutes from now. Good show. Good show for everyone. Again, when I say good show, I just mean everyone that came on, how they contributed to this show. Awesome job. Awesome job to everybody in the chat and everything that y'all brought to this show as well. Again, I appreciate everybody. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. This version will be up later as an audio podcast. I'll get to that tomorrow. You guys can find me live on Bleacher Report talking all things 49ers and the NFL draft. All right, then I'll be on right after the draft as well on Bleacher Report. So appreciate all y'all. None of this would be possible without y'all, man. Y'all give me this platform. I appreciate all y'all. Love y'all, and hope everybody has a great, amazing day. And go outside, get some sunlight, walk, do all that good stuff. I'm out. Peace.